Hello, good day, future nurses, and welcome back to this video lecture series. And we are still focusing on the topic decent work employment. On a previously uploaded video lecture, it focused on decent work, the International Labor Organization, its decent work agenda with the four objectives, and also the incorporation of decent work and economic progress in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And for this lecture, we are going to focus our discussion in or to employment and the different types of employment, especially here in the Philippines. So let's start. And again, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following this video lecture series. Employment is a relationship between two parties, usually based on a contract where work is paid for, and where one party, which may be a corporation, talking about the party here, it can be a corporation, it can be a for-profit organization, a non-profit organization, or a cooperative or co-op as we call it in short, or other entity, and the other entity are what we call employer, and the other entity is an employee. Okay, so here we have two parties, and let's say, for example, in between them is a contract. So in other references, uh, the word person is also used instead of a party. Okay, so person also means an individual, a partnership, an association, a corporation, a business, or a legal representative, or any organized group of persons. And when we say employer, which is already stated here in this slide, employer includes any person acting directly or indirectly in the interest of an employer in relation to an employee, and shall include the government. Okay, meaning an employer can be from the government sector, all branches of government, its different branches, its different divisions, its different representations, all government owned or controlled corporations, institutions, and uh, facilities are considered employers, um, as well as non-profit or private institutions. We can also consider them as employers, and also private institutions, organizations, likewise. And the other party or the other person is an employee. Employee includes any individual employed by an employer. Okay, so the employee again must fulfill, both of them actually, the employer and the employee must fulfill what are the stipulated ones statements in the contract. In other references, they also use worker, but it has a different uh, meaning. Worker means any member of the labor force, whether the worker is employed or unemployed. Okay, so again, employee includes any individual employed by the employer, while worker means any member of the labor force, whether he or she is employed or unemployed. So to further give a description on the different terms here, like corporation, cooperative, corporation is a corporation, or a corporation is a business entity that is owned by shareholders who elect a board of directors to oversee or to supervise, in simpler terms, the organization's activities. A corporation is a legal entity created by individuals, by stockholders, by shareholders with the purpose of operating for profit, okay, for profit intentions. While on the other hand, cooperative, okay, are businesses, or cooperatives are businesses owned by member owners. They are both the owners and likewise the members. They run the business democratically. They control the business, they control the cooperative. Unlike a traditional business, each member gets a voice in how to run the business. For a cooperative, okay, they have the voice, they can freely express their thoughts on how to run the business as part of a member owner of that cooperative. Services or goods provided by the co-op benefit and serve the member owners. Cooperatives provide services in areas where uh, private for-profit businesses don't see sufficient profit potentials. And common examples, I know for sure you are also aware of cooperatives, are agricultural cooperatives. We also have electric cooperatives, like here in our province, in our region, we have Kajelco for Cagayan Electric Cooperative. We have Isalco for Isabela Electric Cooperative. We also have retail cooperatives. We also have housing cooperatives. If you're familiar with credit unions, also they are considered cooperatives. So that's the difference between a corporation and a co-op or cooperative. Employment also, um, here, um, as we have mentioned, there's an employee, there's an employer. Employees work in return for payment, okay, which may be in the form of an hourly wage or by piecework or an annual salary, depending on the type of work an employee does or which sector they are working in. Employees in some fields or sectors may receive gratuities, bonus payment, or stock options. In some types of employment, employees may receive benefits in addition to payment, and employment is typically governed by employment laws, organizations, or legal contracts, or the standards, or the implementing rules and regulations, constitutions, bylaws of that certain organization. So let's dissect some terms here. First is wage. Wage. So when you say wage, this is paid to an employee. Uh, it means the remuneration or earnings, however designated by the contract. Um, it's capable of being expressed in terms of money, whether they are fixed or ascertained on a time, task piece, or also compensation commission basis. Okay, and other method of calculating the same wage is payable by an employer to an employee under written or unwritten contract, but usually it is more advisable to have a written contract, okay, for proper documentation, again for contract purposes, for evidences, for proof purposes. um, and that wage is also for the work done, for the services rendered or to be rendered, and includes the fair and reasonable value, okay, of that compensation, of that wage. It can be of course again reflected in the contract, okay, the amount, the duration of work, how it will be computed in some other contracts. Okay, so that is wage. And for piecework, okay, let's so we have wage for piecework. This is a work paid according to the amount produced. Okay, according to what was produced. Okay, paying an employee on a fixed pay rate for each unit they produce, or piece rate pay, most common for contractor employees also. Piecework, also called task-based pay or output uh, based pay is a way of paying workers for um, for what is accomplished, for what is produced or measured outcome. For example, um, the employer mentions that you can have 50 pesos per created bag, or you have to sue, for example, a wallet, a cap or hat, or a bag. And in every bag that you're going to produce, you receive 50 pesos. For example, in a day you have produced 10 for that day. So 10 times 50 pesos, you'll be having 500 pesos as a whole. Also, okay, so that's piecework. Or for example, for every um, bundle of, let's say, a vegetable produce, you'll get 20 pesos. Let's say beans, okay, sprouted, for example, or any vegetable, any produce, any every single produce or every bundle, depending on what you have in your contract or you have agreed upon, will be equivalent to a certain amount. Okay, so just like that bag, or for example, um, a bundle of vegetable produced, okay, or any product, any produce is equivalent to a piecework. What I read, for example, in an exam in a source is, for example, the tobacco. Okay, any made tobacco cigarette, okay, put in a um, packaging of 10 cigarettes per pack is equivalent, for example, to 20 pesos, for example. So each box of 10 cigarettes is equivalent to 20 pesos, and add up with the total amount of produced that gives the employee the wage also as a piecework computation. Then we have here annual salary. Uh, Annual salary, of course, is the total amount of money you earn from a job in a year. Okay? The figure is usually calculated per calendar year, covering the period from January to December. And also in salary, you have terms like gross income, gross salary, net salary, or net income. Gross salary is the whole amount, amount or salary uh, with the inclusions of the deductibles or the deductions. Means it's not yet deducted, it's not yet minus. Uh, so when we say gross, you have your base salary, you have the benefits, you have the deductibles still in the total amount. And when you say net income, okay, it's already your take home pay, it's already your take home salary, everything is already deducted. Okay, the required deductions were already made, and whatever you receive from your, for example, in your envelope, if you still use envelopes, or ATM in your accounts, that's your net income, okay, or net salary. Then next we have your gratuity. For gratuities, um, this is a monetary benefit given by the employer to the employee at the time usually of retirement. And gratuity is defined also in other references as a benefit plan where no contributions were made by the employee. Sometimes it's out of generosity, as they say, of the employer to their employees. Gratuity is a monetary amount which is payable to the employee of an organization. This is mainly paid to the employee as a token of appreciation for his or her services to the company. But again, it's usually paid without contribution from the employee and usually received or given at the time of retirement. Okay, so this gratuity depends on the employers or the organizations, and to set expectations, not all employers, not all organizations, not all employments uh, have gratuities. But you know, um, when you are in the interview process or hiring process, you can ask that also to your interviewer in a polite, in a proper manner if they have such benefits like gratuity. So, for example, um, in every year that you stay and work until your retirement, in every year or each year, you gain, for example, 2,000 pesos per year, and you work for example, you work for 20 years. So the computation for gratuity would be 40,000, but that's only an example. But others, they receive hundreds of thousands of gratuities, 100,000 gratuity pays, depending on how they compute it actually in the organization or the employer. Okay. Again, this is not required by law. Okay. This is out of token of appreciation by the employer to the employee for every contribution or to any contributions that the employee had provided. And usually, gratuities are also given if a certain period of time are met by the employee. Okay. For example, gratuity can only be given when the employee a um, completes a minimum of number of years, for example, 5 years service in an organization. For example, if the employer or the contract says after 5 years, and let's say the employee retires or leaves the company, they will receive a gratuity pay. Other companies will say 10 years, others will say 25 years, 15 years. So it depends on the employer. However, it should be continuous. Continuous should be continuous employments, continuous tenure, continuous service. I For example, they would say after 10 years you will receive gratuity. So, for example, you resigned uh, on your fourth year and you work for a year in another employment, but after that you return to the previous company, so that will not be considered to um, be like a qualification for your gratuity. Okay, so it should be straight, it should be continuous service. Then generally, as I mentioned, employers pay gratuity at the time of retirement, but can also be given during the period of employment. Right? Depends on the again employer. It's discretion of the employer. And gratuity is calculated based on the last drawn salary and years of service or other computations of your employers. Bonus, we have mentioned here bonus payment. Bonus payment is a financial compensation that is above and beyond the normal payment expectations of the recipient or of the employee. Uh, it is separate amount, it's a different amount from your salary, and bonuses may be awarded by a company as an incentive or a reward for a good performance or a seasonal bonus. An example of a seasonal bonus is your Christmas bonus. Okay, remember Christmas bonus is different from 13-month pay, from 14-month pay. Okay, usually 13-month pay are what they call this are mandated by law. Bonuses are not. Again, it's based on the incentive of the employer, or let's say generosity of the employer as well. Okay, because not all employer institutions give bonuses. Okay, so do not misunderstand that and do not set your expectations too high. But again, you may ask that later in your interview process if you have those types of benefits and bonuses. Okay, so typically, especially nowadays, there are different types of bonuses which we can hear. Um, Incentive bonuses, a company that can give employees, including signing bonus, referral bonus, and retention bonuses. Um, I'll start with the three: signing, referral, and retention bonuses. From the word signing, you sign. Okay, from the moment, for example, you've been interviewed for a possible job, and let's say eventually the interviewer or the panel have interest in you, they want to give you a chance, so they hire you in their company. So right there and then they will ask you, for example, to sign a contract. So signing bonus will come after you sign the contract. Okay, so you're not starting the job yet. You just signed the contract and now you receive a bonus. So that's signing bonus. Okay, other companies do that. For example, the BPO industries, they offer that kind of bonuses, signing bonus. Then the second one is referral bonus. From the word referral, for example, you are an employee already. Let's say take it progressively from the situation that I gave earlier. You signed, right? You signed, you receive a signing bonus. Then, for example, you are already there for about 2 years, 3 years. So you experience being an employee there, or you found that the working environment is one of the best in the country, one of the best in the industry. The benefits are good, the salary is competitive, there are different benefits, there are HMOs, there are insurances, and the like. So then eventually, the company says we need to expand and we need more people, so we are going to hire. Then they announce every employee who will refer a a possible employee, possible applicant that will sign the contract will receive referral bonus. So what you would do, sometimes people does, is they will look for people who will be interested in working in the company, who will be prospects to sign and work, because they will be receiving referral bonuses from the company. So for example, uh, employee A, okay, is the one getting or um, asking people to apply, or friends, family members, from his friends or family members asking them to apply. So here comes employee B. He was hired and he signed. So employee B will receive a signing bonus, and employee A will receive a referral bonus. Okay, usually those are conditions when it's not referral of applicants, but you refer, but the applicant should be um what's this would should be um accepted in the company before you receive your referral bonus. Okay, then the third one is retention bonus. Okay, from the word retain or retention, for every year that you renew on the same company and you retain your service, you will receive an amount or bonus. So that's a retention bonus. For example, usually it's yearly. Uh, you'll be having a retention bonus. The thought of staying in the company is there. Okay, so that's why it's called retention bonus. Then fourth, also aside from signing, referral, and retention, we also have that merit-based bonus or performance-based bonus. Okay, so for example, it by the end of the year, calendar year, fiscal year, employees are evaluated, okay, by peers or by clients, or for example, for us by students. For example, if these are offered to some schools, these types of bonuses. Um, for example, your evaluation is excellent, the highest one. You'll be, or for example, in numbers 97% to 100% evaluation, you will be receiving this amount of bonus. That's merit based or performance based. For those who receive very satisfactory evaluation or VS, let's say for example 95 to 97% or 96 percent, you receive this amount of of money, of bonus. Okay, satisfactory, okay, this is the amount, and so on. Okay, and maybe the lower ones have none, because the bonuses are merit based, are performance based. Okay, so that's one example of bonus. So we have we have signing, retention, we have referral, and performance based or merit based bonuses. Benefits. Okay, we have their benefits. Okay, benefits provided to employees in addition to their base salaries and wages. Uh, so we have benefits like in our country, we have SSS, we have in the private SSS, GSIS for government, we have PhilHealth, we have Pag-ibig, and other benefits. So usually those yung the first four that I mentioned are low mandated benefits, and other benefits may include, like health insurance or HMOs, life insurances, paid time off, meaning paid holidays, paid vacation leaves, paid sick leave. Those are benefits also. Um, because there are some employers that they do not give these types of benefits. For example, you get absent because of work, you are in a no work no pay status, so you don't have that privilege. You don't have that uh, benefit. What else? Retirement benefits. For example, you are going to receive this amount when you retire, when you meet the retirement year, duration of years, or in a certain resignation, you can also have this benefit. It depends on the employer or employee contract. There are also benefits which are considered to be amenities in your workplace. For example, in your workplace, you have a gym, a workout gym, you have a swimming pool, you have a gaming area. For as long as you're an employee there, you can avail of this, or you can use these amenities. For example, you can go for a gym or workout after your work. You can play, for example, PS5 or any console that you have while working, or I mean break time, during break time or after work. Okay? It depends on the policy. Okay? For example, you have sleeping quarters. Okay, for as long as you are an employee and your house, for example, is far, you can sleep overnight if your duty of your work is during unholy hour or wee hours of the day or of the night. Okay, so those are examples of benefits. Again, not all benefits are the same with the different employers or organization. You may inquire that soon uh, during your interview. Then let's proceed to the nature and conditions of employment, especially here in the Philippines. We have here five, but I think I'll be discussing six. We have regular or permanent employment, term or fixed employment, project employment, seasonal employment, casual employment. So here, um, this is based on the Labor Code of the Philippines, actually, Book 3 of the Labor Code of the Philippines. So regular or permanent employment. When an employee performs activities that are usually necessary or desirable in the usual business or security, our trade of the employer, the employee also enjoy the benefit of security of tenure provided by the Philippine Constitution and cannot be terminated for causes other than those provided by law and only after due process given to them. Okay? Under Article 281 of the Labor Code of the Philippines, the maximum length of probationary employment shall be 6 months and is counted from the date an employee started working. Okay, so let's define some terms here first. When you say security of tenure, okay, security of tenure, it means a guaranteed permanent employment, guaranteed permanent position or permanent employment, as the um, phrase would indicate here, especially um, It depends, actually, it depends on the employee type. Usually, if you are a teacher, a lecturer, you have a probationary period. So, since we have already mentioned about probationary period here, or employment, this probationary employment, it's like a trial employment to give the employer a chance to observe you as a possible employee if you are suited or fitted for the work. Okay, so that's a trial employment. The city can start like 1 month to 6 months, depending on the policy of the employer. Okay, so from 1 month to 6 months. Um, it's a constitutional or legal guarantee that a political office holder cannot be removed from office except in exceptional and specified circumstances. Okay, the regular employee. And termination. Termination is the end of an employee's work with a company or an organization or from an employer. An employee may be terminated from the job of their own free will or following a decision made by the employer. Okay, so when you say your own free will, you resigned on your own, maybe because of your own reasons, health, family, or any reasons, and you tendered your resignation. So that's your own free will. That means there are no outside forces, external forces, factors that contributed to your, or coercive forces that contributed to your resignation. Okay, so something that is more personal, maybe in terms of family, health, and others. On the other hand, following a decision made by the employer. For example, you are not working properly, your evaluation are consistently low, you're a what's this, a liability, for example, to the company. Uh, you're not working well, and you do not deliver the results that are expected from you. Okay, and based on evaluation, you're consistently low. So after due considerations, number of considerations given, the employer decides you to be terminated. Okay, or maybe you have committed some crimes, administrative crime, criminals, liabilities. So that can also mean termination. Okay, but it says there that termination should be in due process also, especially with the second one that I've mentioned. If you have committed crimes or cases, okay, um, it's mentioned there due process. So when you say due process, it's a fair treatment through the normal judicial system. When if you're talking about technicalities here, especially a citizen's entitlement to notice of a charge in a hearing before an impartial judge. So meaning, when you say due process, you should be notified, or you should be informed of a charge, of a case, of a scenario, incident that caused you to incur the case or the violation. And second, you should be given the chance to defend yourself or explain yourself, whether by letter and then or by face-to-face dialogue with the administration representatives usually, or the HR usually, or your direct heads. Okay, and when you say due process, the right to be treated fairly, efficiently, and effectively by the administration of justice. Okay, again, uh, you will not be, for example, you will not be um, given verdict without due process. First, by informing you of the incident, of the possible violation that you've committed or crime that you've committed, and you should be uh, given the chance to defend yourself or explain yourself in writing or in hearing. Okay, and it means due process means recognizing the employee's right to be informed of the performance, for example, if that's the case, or and also to have the chance to defend him or herself, and also in other references to improve before and action is to be taken or done. Okay, there the the penalties or the actions taken by the administration to certain employees will differ based on their own guidelines, based on their own manual of employees, based on their own standards and processes. Every, what they call this, institution, employers, organizations have different way of executing due process. Okay, so that's due process. And remember that do process this part because um, what do you call this? This part is applicable to all types of employments. Enjoyment of benefit of security of tenure provided by the Philippine Constitution and cannot be terminated for causes other than those provided by law and only after due process is given, whether you're a regular employee, contractual, casual, fixed, or seasonal, you this statement is always present. Okay, and excuse me. Uh, Second, term or fixed employment. Okay, for term or fixed employment, it is when the employee renders service for a definite period of time and the employment contract must be terminated after such a period expires. From the word fix or term, there's a anticipation of duration of time that you are going to work or to fulfill your services. And after that time, having met, your employment is terminated. Okay, unless you will be rehired or yes, rehired for the, for example, extension of the um, work or in other types of work. It depends on the employer, depends on the organization. Okay. Again, it refers to a type of employment that has a specified start and end date. Okay, and where an employee agrees to work until a specified end date or at the completion of a project. Okay. So here, in term or fixed employment, an employee under fixed employment, also known as contractual, this is known as your contractual employment, is the one who is engaged to perform a job, work, or service for a predetermined date of completion or where the employment has a specific date of termination. Okay, again, these are known as your contractual employments. Okay, and if the contract expires, if the definite period of service expires, employment expires. Unless there will be instructions that they can reapply or what we call recontract. They can be qualified for recontracting, so they have the chance again to be rehired. Then third, we have project employment. Okay, it's same with fixed or term, but this is project based, okay, or program based or activity based. Okay, employee is hired for a specific project or undertaking, and the employment duration is specified by the scope of work and or length of the project. If the project or the program or the activity is done, your employment is already finished or terminated. A project employee may acquire the status of regular employee, on the other hand, when they are continuously rehired by the same organization after the completion of the project or when tasks they perform are vital, a necessary and indispensable to the usual business or trade of the employer. So you have the chance to be uh, hired as a regular or permanent employee. Okay, so fixed for a specific project or undertaking, and it will not continue until completion of the specific project or undertaking, unless you are going to be rehired. For example, if the project is to be extended or you are rehired for another project. And again, in that context, you are automatically terminated upon the completion of the project. Okay, so it will depend on the employer if they will be rehiring you. Okay, especially if your your performance is very exceptional or very satisfactory, you're consistent, good at work. Um, so also like what is written here, the tasks the they perform are very vital, necessary, and indispensable. I have friends from my batchmates before. They started as project-based employees, and they were continuously hired for not on maybe 5 years project-based. They really stay there. They really showed patience and good work ethics. And God willing, after 5 years, they had the permanent position. And then number four, we have seasonal employment. From the word seasonal or season, the employment is based on season. Usually we call this peak seasons. Okay, for example, Christmas season. So let's say, for example, usually malls or stores hire employees, let's say starting from November or October until the end of January. Okay, so that's the Christmas season, for example, for stores. So after the season, the employment will be terminated, okay, and suspended or terminated, and they will not, of course, work, and they will have no compensation. So it's a no work, no pay policy also. They can apply for another job in another organization. They can be rehired actually by the same um, uh, for example, organization, for example, malls, if peak season will come again. Okay, so normally called to work during peak seasons, for example, Christmas, summer season, and are not paid during off season under again a no work no pay principle. So in between seasons, they are considered suspended and gets no payment. And here, still, if even you are a seasonal employee, you enjoy also the benefit of security of tenure and cannot be terminated until the end of the season for which they are uh, hired continuously from season to season unless there will be other causes of termination. We do process again. The number five, casual employment from the word casual. So the employee performs work that is not usually necessary or primarily related to the employer's business or trade. The definite period of employment should be made known to the employee at the time they started rendering the service. Okay, some casual employees are on-call employees also. If their services are needed, they will be called. If their services are not needed, they will not be called. There will be no payments because they didn't work. Okay, so is there still a security of tenure? Yes, but very minimal compared to other. I can say uh, based on also on my interviews with my friends before, my colleagues, very minimal or very yeah, slight chance to be regular. Okay, so what they did is to have better employment. Okay, but really speaking, this is one of types of employment in the Philippines. So the employee is engaged to perform a job, work, or service which is not usually necessary or desirable to the business. Okay, and such job, work, or service is for a definite period only and should be made known to the employee who is a casual employee, okay, at the time of engagement. And if a casual employee has rendered at least 1 year of service in the same company, whether service is continuous or broken, the casual employee in the Philippines shall be considered a regular employee with respect to the activity employed. Okay? And casual employee, as I've mentioned, also enjoys security of tenure while such activity continues. Okay, so for example, you are a casual employee driver. So if they need additional driver or no one is available and you will be available, you'll be called. But if uh, they don't need, uh, so you will not called. So there's no work, there's no pay. Okay, and hoping it is a continuous activity until you become a regular employee. Then lastly, we have your probationary employment. Okay, for probationary employment, as I mentioned earlier, this is like a tentative employment, a trial employment for usually 1 to 6 months to determine whether or not the employee would qualify for a regular or permanent position or employment in the Philippines, okay, based on reasonable standards made known to the probationary employee. Okay, so this is intended also to the employer to have an opportunity to observe, okay, the fitness of the probationary employee while at work and to ascertain that he or she will be efficient and productive. Okay, and once qualification is determined or when work continues after expiration of 6 months, uh, he or she will be permanent unless it will be extended or unless the employee will be informed that he or she will not be qualified for the or will not be fitted or suited for the work. Okay, so those are the 6 types of employment in the Philippines. Again, we have regular or permanent employment, term or fixed employment, project-based employment, seasonal employment, casual employment, and probationary employment. So at least from this uh, lecture and before you go for your actual work, you have already knowledge on this types and nature of employment in the Philippines. Okay, and later on, um, you'll be experiencing hiring process, interviews, and with this idea in mind, knowledge in mind, unless there will be changes, okay, you have a good background already. And this is the end of the topic for this video lecture. And for the next video lecture, we are going to present some question and answers uh, related to employment. Okay, and that would be the third part of this video lecture series in decent work employment. And I hope you learned something, and I hope that you are going to be a good student nurse and future registered nurse as well. And thank you for watching. Thank you.